TBRI.
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 TOVD.
TBRI.
TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention.
TBRI is an attachment-based,
Trauma-informed intervention
that is designed to meet the complex needs
of vulnerable children.
TBRI uses empowering principles
To address physical needs,
connecting principles for attachment needs,
and correcting principles to disarm fear-based behaviors.
While TBRI is based on years of attachment, sensory processing, and neuroscience research,
the heartbeat of TBRI is connection.
Hello and welcome to the TBRI podcast. You're listening to Season 11, Episode 5. On this show, we talk all about trust-based relational intervention, or TBRI. We talk about different elements of the model itself, and also about how TBRI is applied in various communities of care and practice. I'm Emily Pickett, producer of the podcast, and I am so honored to introduce today's episode with Janne Snaith. Janne is a TBRI practitioner who lives and works in Estonia. She is a trainer of several trauma competency and attachment programs, a lecturer in 2 Estonian universities on trauma and crisis, and she is also a foster parents counselor and service developer. Janne has also translated and edited 8 books on attachment and trauma into Estonian, including The Connected Parent. She is a highly sought-after speaker and trainer and has been invited to train across Europe and Africa on attachment and trauma-informed communities. Janne is also a foster parent of 8 children in care and has 2 adult biological children. Today's conversation is such a rich example of how TBRI can be adapted across cultures. Janne shares how she came to know TBRI, how she uses it in her work with traumatized children, as well as in higher education settings. Janne and Sarah talk about how a country's history can impact relationships and the importance of coming to terms with our own histories before we can help a child heal. Thank you so much for listening, and please enjoy this conversation with our friend Janne.
Janne, welcome to the podcast. Boy, am I happy to see you today.
Oh, maybe not as happy as I am.
Stop.
Overseas, actually over oceans, where we are.
I know, it's so far. So what time is it in Estonia right now?
It's exactly 6 p.m. and 11 minutes.
Okay, so it's 11 in the morning here. So your day is done and mine is sort of partially done. Well, welcome to the podcast. Would you please introduce yourself and share how you came to know TBRI?
Oh, that's a long story. It really doesn't fit into the whole podcast, but so my name is in Estonian Janne, but you can also say Jane because it's written like Jane.
Mm-hmm.
And on my already about 13 to 15 year, I'm involved in NGO Family for Each Child, which is my like a main body where we're operating or working, and the part of work is voluntary or charitable. Part of work we do when all the things for now I can say for traumatized children, because we started as a support organization for foster adoption and guardianship or guardian kinship parents, let's say that way. But pretty soon we realized that it's not a question really that children are placed to our family. The question is that these kids are all traumatized. So it's not that we really standing with the flags up in front of parliaments for the rights of foster parents, but we need to think that these children actually are really in need of different support and different help and different parenting. And yes, and that this information wasn't really available. So I think it all went round and round how I met through a World Without Orphans.
Okay.
I met Cody, who was then in Latvia. She's originally from the States. And she said, oh yeah, you need to hear about TBRI. Something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, I'm trying to shorten everything, it's a longer time periods. And then the Latvian team managed to invite me and my colleague to Riga when it was kind of TBRI introduction. And you were there, but you were very far in front of the stage. You were like a big famous person from the States. And I was, because that meeting was meant for the Latvians. So we were from Estonia. So we couldn't actually participate officially. So they called us as a kitchen team. So we actually came to his
Really?
Yes, we came through kitchen team. We were registered into helping team, so that way we were able to join the thing. So we were sitting near the kitchen door, or wherever they did all of the stuff. But I have seen in my life that the best things happen that way. But even if you are not allowed or not possible, you still make it possible. So that was my first time, and I was thrilled. Actually, before that, I started then, or a little bit before, I monitored the works of Dr. Karen Purvis already earlier through YouTube, and everything, and I found them very fascinating. And then that's why I was so thrilled to hear about TBRI and somehow to move closer there. And I really don't remember. It was probably through Lithuania because when the Eastern European this training was planned,
the practitioner.
Yes, practitioner training. There wasn't initially Estonia involved because probably there was just no connections. But through that, through that Latvian connection and time, I met also Jovita then. Yeah, so from Lithuania. And I guess through these connections, we were able to sneak few people, 6 people from Estonia to this TBRI Eastern European Practitioner training. So that's how it started, actually.
That's how it started. I remember because y'all were we were on Zoom because of COVID, and y'all were all in the same room together, working it out, which was really cool to see. What do you think sets TBRI apart from other models that you've experienced?
Well, for me, it's kind of I don't like to say word holistic because in this part of the world it might mean something, even occult stuff.
Right.
So I would say whole. Word semantica is everybody understands is different. But TBRI brings together all the aspects. It's not only there's people talking about, they're talking about occupational therapy, which involves sensory parts, what the children need. We talk a lot about connection or attachment, again, but separately. And then there's this big issue of discipline. How do we, make children, how do we make them behaving correctly? But they are all like scattered. They are not, they're all like a separate part. So TBRI, this first thing, brings everything together, puts it like under one roof or something. The other thing what I always liked, I would say clean. What I mean by clean, it's not, it's based on evidence-based, it's scientific, because often that kind of soft values, they start going astray. They bring all kind of esoterics in it, and many things which you don't have anything to do anymore with evidence-based or where is no research behind it or that kind of, at least I'm talking about, again, this side of ocean. So TBRI for me really seemed sort of clean, pure, just taking, and you realize, yes, this is based on real human needs.
I love that because I think that I've never heard somebody describe it as clean or pure, but I think that's true because I think we're kind of it's almost like it's not as simple as this, but it's kind of down to basics, right? Like it's let's see this child for who they are and let's help them meet the needs that they're expressing, and it's not terribly complex. So I love that. Um I want to talk about, okay, what are the different settings? Because I know you are a busy, busy lady. What are the different settings where you are teaching, coaching, implementing TBRI?
Mm. Well, this business is always, that's like a blessing and a curse because people always saying, "Oh, you're so busy, so I didn't dare to connect you." I said,
Hmm.
"Well, I'm not. If everybody thinks like that, I'm not busy anymore. You know?
Right,
Nobody likes me anymore."
right.
So probably it's just the specifics in this country. It's a country of 1.3 million people.
Okay.
Think that you have cities which are way bigger in the States
Hmm.
and we have a country here. So it's not like we work only in a scope of one organization because it's literally one organization or others also they working nationwide on this small country. Well, we started obviously from training foster caregivers and residential care, everything what sort of family-based units like we have here. But then I was really fascinated of TBRI for classrooms. So I translated that material, like in large, all of these slides or everything.
Hmm.
I translated that to Estonian, and I thought that this is so necessary for schools.
Hmm.
We call it trauma-informed school, or yeah, the same TBRI for classroom, for
Hmm.
the educational system. Then for the or in universities, I also offered
Right.
now 3 or 4 years already. I have in two Tallinn University and Tartu University. There is one Pärnu College. It's in one southwest town. So there is for social workers, for child protection workers, for the social educators. It's like a course child and trauma.
Hmm.
Actually, it was I took over in Tallinn University when old course was child and crisis. And they asked me to, because the previous person retired, they asked me to continue with that. I asked like one thing: can I change? Can I change the subject, child and trauma? They said nope, but you
Yeah.
can you can speak whatever you want.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Because it
Wow.
was all of these programs where they needed to change. It's going to be changed now next year. It's
Oh,
going to,
good.
but I started it. Didn't matter. It was child and crisis, but I took just the TBRI and I kept on going with TBRI on the three pillars, for
Uh-huh.
that.
Wow.
It wasn't so long course. It was like four it was European academic points here. I don't know if it's relevant what you have, but it was enough to give them overview. And from these courses from both universities, because there are youth workers, social workers, many of that. I have had lots of invitation to youth centers or to some local authorities just to speak and to do maybe shorter trainings.
Hmm. That's
Uh,
amazing. So
it,
pretty
it,
much you're all over the place. You're in child welfare,
it,
schools, universities, government.
yes, actually, we have been introduced to this social ministerial sub-agencies. Actually, we did last year. It finished. Year before that, we had a project with Ministry of Social Affairs, and they asked us to do a training for our two of our, I would say, young offenders or youth. Anyway, we call it special schools, where
Okay.
kids are by the court order. They
Right.
are up to the 16, between their, yes, up to 16 years old, but they are there because they already are kind of some criminal issues there. So
Okay.
we did trainings for the three big centers like
Hmm.
that. And then they ordered us, we worked there for a year, like a supervising every month, visiting them. It wasn't easy, still not easy, because this mindset, like we're talking about connection
Hmm.
or correction, or which is first. It's still battling here, but I can see that TBRI it is like virus, and not all the people are prone to that virus. But
Right,
those,
right, right.
yeah.
So tell me this. One of the things that we have learned as we travel around the world, we're on 6 continents now. If anybody in Antarctica wants to study TBRI in a very cold and desolate place, please reach out. Um, but we're literally in many, many cultures. In Estonia, you guys are post-communist, correct? And what what is historically the way that adults would interact with child, whether that's teacher to student, parent to child, coach, like what would the typical kind of interaction look like? Is it like here, when I was growing up, it was the child is to be seen, not heard. You do exactly what the adult says all the time. It was very justice driven. So if I did something wrong, I got something bad kind of thing. So what about there?
Well, I guess here we share a similar history, but probably our history is shadowed also by the fear,
Mm-hmm.
because fears which coming from, Estonia suffered, as all the Baltic countries, on deportation to Siberia. It's actually today is one of the anniversaries when
Mm-hmm.
just tens and thousands people were just sent with like a cattle trains to Siberia, and that's a fear. And that fear took away in TBRI language, we say voice,
Mm-hmm.
because more was said like, be quiet when you will live.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
be quiet, shush, no emotions. That's why we call also our history comes from very avoidant background.
Mm-hmm.
And then Estonians, I don't know if we are proud to survive as a country, as a nation, actually, because we kept quiet. But
Mm-hmm.
that silence again, brings this anger, brings,
Yeah.
brings, brings, and it explodes. So that history is the same, children were not allowed to say anything or heard, but probably it's a world history. But yeah, we have had fear, and that's why people are still, we are known as inward people, we
Mm-hmm.
don't talk much. Or I had actually that we don't say we don't use our words to say out emotions which might be inside there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very difficult for let's say not maybe more for me anymore, but my parents' generation to say out I love you. I mean, to the children, they
Mm-hmm.
show it in their actions. Yes, good parents, but you hear it from your parents. That's we are like a silenced nation, which we need to break out and break through.
So it's literally, I mean, if I'm hearing you correctly, so it's survival, right? Like
Yeah.
kids had to be quiet to survive. I just had the opportunity when I was in Poland recently to go to Auschwitz, and it was a similar, like literally these trains are coming in and people are hiding, and you had to be quiet for survival. And so that's a thing when you talk about giving somebody voice, you're not just overcoming like what we do here, which is like, children should be seen, not heard. Here is not about safety.
Mhm.
It's about a belief that adults matter more than kids, in my mind. And I'm oversimplifying that, right? But it's like an adult is talking, you don't talk kind of thing. And we can ball it up into respect or whatever we want. But the truth is we just didn't value the children's voices. There, that's different because like you said, you're living in fear. And so to figure out, and I'm wondering the anniversary that you're experiencing today, um, how long ago did that happen?
Well, we had actually a couple of waves. It was before the Second World War, right? Not before. It was, yeah, Stalin time. It was like 41 and then 44 or 45. So two, actually, we've went through two really huge waves when tens and thousands of people were deported. And
Yeah.
actually ended. Some people who survived were alive. They could return only after Stalin's death, when Stalin died. It was in the 50s somewhere, and people 50, 54, 57, between like 54, 55 and 60, 1960, people could start returning, those who were able, but a lot of people died also. So I have been thinking a lot also regarding our attachment history and what it has done for the people.
I mean, I think it's so important to know. I think sometimes we jump into TBRI without, and if we don't recognize the history that exists out there, then we don't know that literally asking an adult to give a child a voice feels scary in some ways. And there's a reason for that. And it's very, very logical because it was a threat to safety, right? And then if you add on, epigenetics to that, then literally in the bodies of people in Estonia today, people are probably a little dysregulated and may not know why, because that trauma exists in them. 66 or 44, that's not very long ago in reality to the history of the world, right? So we're talking in many people's lifetimes that this was happening. And so I think it's so brilliant that you said you kind of start off with like, this is what attachment looks like, and this is what a healthy attachment looks like. And part of that is giving voice, and part of that is responding to the voice and all of that. But then also to know that layer of like, this is no joke. Like what we're actually asking adults in Estonia to do by giving a child a voice is a really, really big deal because it's counter to the history of what would keep you safe.
Yeah, and I had in one training, there was a lady, she was working in residential care. And if you see that if people have still traumas in their own life, which are not sorted out or solved.
Right.
So we were talking about, not through a TBRI lens, how to help the children. And her sort of first immediate reaction was, but I survived. So
Right.
they will survive
Right.
also.
Right.
So like thinking, but it doesn't matter if they have children had a hard, they have sort of this from hard places that I survived. They should be also able to survive. I thought if I ever write a book one day, that will be, but I survived. It's a
Yeah,
title.
you should write it, but we also know that falls into dismissive attachment, and that's an avoidant behavior to avoid the right. That it's a survival mechanism too, of like, I survived it, they should too, because if I go that way, then I don't have to deal with the pain of my own
Yeah,
survival.
absolutely.
Oh, there's so much. It's so much. And I think that an easy mistake to make is to think we could just, you know, drop in and assume that without knowing these things that that we can have the impact we want to have. With all of that in mind, are there adjustments that you need to make to TBRI to meet the cultural needs of Estonians?
Mm, Actually, like I said, it's an amazing set of principles. I don't think that we ever made any adjustments
Hmm.
because, like we said, these are basic human needs.
Hmm.
Actually, this is an amazing to watch if we are talking either by principle or all to three together, how people actually they eyes lit up. It's something like, really, they get it
Uh-huh.
because it touches there the whole innermost being. It's
Hmm.
everybody's needs, even if we, I believe strongly in attachment, not even theory anymore. I believe it's science.
Hmm.
And I believe that we have, it's inborn in us, the system of searching for safe, secure
Hmm.
attachment. Even if our patterns are insecure,
Right.
it's this search for the safe attachment is always there. And if we recognize it, it's like through the TBRI, it's possible. So it opens a lot of hearts. So I don't honestly haven't seen any need
Hmm.
for any adjustments.
Yeah.
Like I was once in Rwanda doing not TBRI yet, need to go there, a seminar on trauma informed. Well, I'm using, of course, TBRI principles, and it was in a university in Rwanda, and there was a dean, a nice lady with faculty, and she said, "Yes, but our culture, our culture says that children should be quiet and not interrupted." But I challenged them. I said, "But who makes a culture?
Yeah.
Makes a culture.
Yeah.
We make a culture in Estonia, Rwanda, in America. If we know today that this is not good for our development or our children's development, then we need to change culture, as simple as it is."
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I just think it's something to be really, really mindful of. Um, because if I just have an attitude about kids that says I don't want them talking around me, that's vastly different than having this, lives in my body fear that too much noise from kids is potentially dangerous. And so I think we have to like really be mindful of what's behind that belief system, and then how do we move forward to give kids voice in light of history. In the same way, when I was teaching in Latvia, there's a plant that they actually use like a band-aid. And so when we were doing nurture groups, like one of their cultural adaptations is like it's very common for them to walk outside and pick a leaf off of this plant and put it on the skin, the hurt. Um, and so like, there can be little cultural adaptations like that. And, in China, eye contact from a child to an adult is disrespectful, so we wouldn't teach that. So, but it really is important, I think, in the just like you said, like the basis is that at its root, this is about healthy relationships, and we need to examine our culture and where we want to be in our culture
And
as
the
we
need,
move
that's
forward.
what I'm always saying, that I'm not going to change your ways or culture, or like you said, in China it's disrespectful or something to look to the eyes. TBRI teaches us what the needs are. Now,
Hmm.
our matter question is how we actually putting that in practice.
Mm,
Know the need, how do we do it?
mm,
Do we need to change the culture? Do we need actually change really something of our thinking? What is respectful? What's not respectful?
mm,
TBRI gives us this is a need.
hmm.
How do you solve that?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I love it. And it all comes back to that connection piece, right? So how do I meet the need of connection? What is your favorite part of the work you do?
My favorite part, like you said, we call it's like nine different jobs.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, if I actually love passing on what I have acquired.
Uh-huh.
Let's put it that way, training. And if I can see that I really have got something which is so good and practical, and I want to pass it on, because talking about like trauma competency or TBRI, it works. It's
Hmm.
still through this already fourth year when we have TBRI here, it simply works. And
Hmm.
when you see when the people telling that, oh, it was amazing, I want to hear more. And this one day when I sometimes somewhere introduce it, people just coming saying, where can I hear more? Where can I get more about it? Because it wasn't
Hmm.
enough. So
Right, right.
when they give feedback, when they telling that everything was great, uh, only it wasn't enough.
You're
But
right, right. Give me more,
time
give me
frame,
more, give me more.
give me more. So I love passing it on, but and also of course filling my cup again to pour
Hmm.
out some.
Oh, that's so cool. I just really love it. I know you obviously know you came over and we got to visit in person a few months ago, and that was such a treat. And you actually spoke to one of our uh, classes with students at the university, and we were so grateful for you to share your wisdom there. And then you hung out for camp for a weekend, and that was really fun. But what I'm most excited about is my trip over to Estonia this coming fall. where we're going to have so much fun. And hopefully we'll do some good work and support the work you've already started. Yanni, thank you for being here. I so appreciate your wisdom and your time.
Thank you. And welcome to Estonia.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
The TBRI podcast is produced by the Care and Purpose Institute of Child Development at TCU. To learn more about TBRI and the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit child.tcu.edu/podcast.